Hello and welcome to the Leeds That podcast. I'm James and I'm with Rocco Dean.
Hello.
And Darragh Cunningham.
Hello there.
We're here after the draw at Preston at Deepdale. We'll come on to whether it was a point gained. Maybe, don't know. Let's see. But before we get into it, special thanks to Bass & Bligh, premium independent photographic dealership with over 60 years of experience, based in Harrogate. They specialise in cameras, binoculars and spotting scopes. They offer a wide range of brands, including Canon, Fuji, Nikon and Sony, and they sell the very best in binoculars and spotting scopes from top manufacturers such as Swarovski, Opticon, Leica and Zeiss. They have an offer on their website at the minute. Do you remember what it is?
No.
It's a Christmas offer.
Hang on. Oh, no, forget it. I thought I had it. It came
Are
into
you
my head and then I
Aronson in
completely bowled
disguise?
it.
That's Rocco's Brendan Aronson impression. For a minute, it was going to be good, but then it wasn't.
Amazing. And cold, that, Darragh, bloody hell. So no, if you go to the website, a little pop-up should come up where if you sign up with your email address, you'll get £10 off used products when you spend £100 or over, which is great. All used gear comes with a warranty as well, and they are loading quite a lot of stuff up onto their site at the minute. Some really good stuff, actually. I saw some really nice compact DSLR. I don't know what they're not called that. Mirrorless, I don't know. You tell me. Mirrorless cameras. We saw some of them, and they look really good.
Can I ask a question about this for our lovely sponsor? What's a mirrored camera?
What's
if
a mirror?
it's a mirrorless camera.
So SLRs used to have a reflex mirror in them, and to reduce the overall size of cameras, they got rid of the mirror, and they went and it goes straight onto the sensor and into a video feed, so you'd like a screen on the back. So traditional DSLRs didn't really have an LCD screen that you could look through.
Interesting.
So yeah, they're much smaller than they were, say, 10 years ago. So if you are next in Harrogate on
6 Beulah Street in Harrogate,
visit them or go to bassandbligh.com. So, right, let's finish this episode. Player ratings. We have to talk about it. The stress of the weekend. Crikey. Why do we do it to ourselves? Why do Leeds do it to us? Should we ask? Really?
I know. It's my fault because I was saying, I was talking like we were already promoted midweek, and now,
you always do.
Now my head's gone and I'm worried.
No. What are you worried about? Well, to be fair, I told you to be worried about Sheffield United at the start of the season, and you two both said I shouldn't.
I laughed at you. I thought you were talking nonsense, but they just keep doing what a top of the table team do. They just keep winning games. Like, did anyone think they were going to lose to Millwall? Well, routine win. They won again midweek. Now, granted, they were at home, but I even saw their own fans saying it was a crap performance. So they have a really poor performance and still win 2-0. That's what we need to start doing. That's what all the top teams do, is you play poorly and you get a result. We don't seem to be able to do that at the moment. Lucky to get a point on Saturday, obviously. Well, we muller teams at home. We're a different animal, but we'll come to that.
We were pretty buzzing after the press conference in the run-up to the Preston game. I say I was. Mainly because Farke was just talking about, he was kind of hinting at circadian rhythms, Darragh, but we won't go into that again. And he was saying that we shouldn't feel sorry for the players because they have to eat at funny times, or weird meals at funny times is kind of what he was saying. The suggestion that maybe they have pasta for breakfast with the early kick-off games. But that was all sort of short-lived. Actually, he talked quite nicely about Alex Cairns, didn't he?
He did. He said he loves him, and then he came back to it and he says, I actually do love him, and he might well need him, because I won't mind him chucking him in now, I think. It was such a great presser, though. I love Farke. I'm definitely going to be critical.
It's okay to be critical.
Great guy.
Yeah,
it is. And, and it's all right to disagree with some of his decisions. Doesn't even mean they're wrong. But just love him. What a great guy. It's like such a top bloke. Like, the players must really love him and respect him, as I do.
To be fair, there's nothing not to love. Like, I am the most, probably of the three of us, I'm probably the most critical of him. But I still love him. I still think he's a great bloke. I actually think he'd be an amazing director of football someday. Like the way he has an eye for a player, the discipline, the culture he sets out, the culture of excellence. I think he'd be an excellent director of football. At the moment, he's still a top-class championship manager who's punching at the top of the league. So I'm sure he'll continue on that for a while. But you'd love to see him maybe take on that senior role at Leeds at some point in his career. rather than just leave the club and be part of the history. Although history, I think, will remember him fondly.
With disappointing results, we tend to avoid structure of the podcast. I don't know whether it's because we just abandoned the idea of having to think about it and plan it. So I'm kind of going through WhatsApp in chronological order on Saturday to see what we were saying to one another. And I think one of the first things that was said, naming no names, earlier is shit. But, so I want to, Rocco's put his hand up for any audio listeners out there. Obviously this is on YouTube at the minute as well. I defended Melia, and I still do, and I will do actually. But you say what you want to say. Say what you need to say, Rocco.
Yeah, I've defended him. I thought he was a top class keeper, and I thought he was going to be world class. I think he was world class for a period when he had his first season in the Premier League. And we finished 9th and we had a great defence, but I've just lost faith in him. It's too much now. Like, I wasn't happy with the goal midweek. I thought that was really poor. And there's just too many mistakes. And I've completely snapped. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was just such crap goalkeeping. Like, he has done it too much now. Like, so before I could defend the Portsmouth goal because, it does happen, but not when it happens like this amount of times. And it's costing us points, and it's Kiko Casilla-esque, and you look at the goals to shots thing, I've been, I've tried to sort of ignore that because it's just a stat and the main stat is goals conceded and he's always near the top. But you can't ignore how terrible it is now. And yeah, I mean, the away from home, like every shot just seems to go in. It's just absolutely crazy. And there's no defending how appalling the goalkeeping was for that goal that went in. Yeah, probably cost us 2 points.
Yeah, I could be honest, I'd love to disagree with you. I'm a big Meslier fan. Even at the start of the season, I was saying, look, we're in the Championship. He's a Championship keeper. He'll be absolutely fine. I forgave him for the mistakes he's made. But you're right, it's getting to a point now where it's just too regular an occurrence. Just doesn't seem to save anything that he should, not that he should save. He saves the ones he should save for the most part. Anything that's in any way above average, and I'm not even talking difficult, just above average as an attempt, goes in. That one on Saturday wasn't straight at him. People say it was straight out. It wasn't straight at him. It was actually almost easier than that because he was moving to his right and it was hit to his right. And all he had to do was get his momentum, continue his momentum and flick a hand at it. And he saves it, and he couldn't even do that. Now, he was excellent against Middlesbrough, but again, at the one save he had, I think it was near post, you'd expect him to make. None of us thought that was amazing in the stadium. We just thought, yeah, good save. It looked better I think it looked better on camera. But it's just every shot is going in, and you have to just look at it and say, look, I just want an average goalkeeper at this point. I just want someone who'll save what he's supposed to save, not make too many mistakes, and get us across the line. So, in all honesty, come January, if we're in the market for a keeper, I think he's only got himself to blame.
So I kept thinking about asking the question of pinpointing issues as to, why we're losing points in games like this. And I think pinpoint, in my view, makes it become the wrong word because you're trying to look for something very specific. Whereas I think it's actually a few things that are going wrong for us at the minute, a few things going wrong for us all over the pitch. So I think in the run-up to that goal, for starters, Brendan Aronson had the ball on the edge of the box. I'm running this from memory because I've not watched it back, so I was so disappointed.
It was Rothwell lost at the edge of the box.
No, so the ball was played. The ball was played to Rothwell from Aronson, but Aronson had it in a position where he probably could have taken a shot, and then he thought about it, and then just passed it awkwardly to Rothwell, and then Rothwell was under a bit of trouble, lost possession, and then away they went. And I think there's players like Gnonto, who's, where is he? The Gnonto that we thought that we had. We don't seem to be taking shots, whereas we were having more from outside the box. Tanaka seems to be having a go, which is good. But I think there's a few issues all over the pitch, and I'm not defending Melia because I do think he could definitely do better in situations like that. But I don't know if you watched the Martinez save at the weekend for Aston Villa. You probably saw it all over social media, where the ball's basically behind him and he scoops it out off the line. It's an incredible save. World-class goalkeeper, won a World Cup. Did you see the goal he conceded?
Yeah.
He caught the ball and fell into the net, whereas he could have slapped it away. And that's a world-class keeper, a World Cup winning medal who's made that error. And I think you're going to get errors at the top level. You're going to get them from players like Melia. He is what he is. I just feel like there's no point digging him out and making him sort of responsible for the losses, which is what happens in our fan base because a goalkeeper's under the spotlight as much as a striker is, and Bamford misses a shot. So I think we just generally have to do better all over the pitch. And I feel like the fundamental squad issues that we need to sort are the things that, we've talked about recurrently. Darragh, you've mentioned it specifically, that connection between a 9 and a 10, and whether that's a different 10 and a different 9, or the 9s and 10s playing better together. Something needs to be resolved there, is what I would say. I would use the word pinpoint for that, a certain area that needs to be improved.
I would tend to agree with you on the balanced view of Melia, and keepers make mistakes if it wasn't happening so regularly. I think that's the problem. I mean, we're 21 games in now, and I've defended him for 20 games, and this is the first time I'm going, I just can't anymore, because I lose credibility myself if I continue with this. He's not up to standard this season. He really isn't. He's doing below average. Like, he's not, I was going to say he's not caused any howlers. He is. Like, the Sunderland one was unbelievable. Like, literally unbelievable. But it's nearly every game at the moment where any shot with a bit above average chance goes in.
So, like, midweek, when we spoke about that save he made at his near post, I said, it's the type of shot that he might let in, it usually just hits a biscuit hand and goes in, make a bit of a joke of it. And then it happens 3 days later, exactly that, biscuit hands. It's like crazy. But yeah, like you say, Joe, like when we're talking about blaming, putting a finger on what the problem is away from home, because definitely it's a thing now. Like Farke said before the game, we've got one of the best records away from home in the league. He played it down, but he can't hide from it now. And after the game, he actually said, he made a comment about how important it was to equalise for our reputation in the division, which I think is massively telling, because I think he's recognised there, and he must have told the players that they are getting the reputation of having a soft underbelly. They can't do it away from home, and they're not turning up to the fight. And at home, I think teams are turning up at Ellandroad already beaten, and we've got a completely different spring in our step. And maybe it is partly Farke. I don't know. I think it probably is. We really go for teams at home like Middlesbrough. We weren't giving them time to breathe, and then we go away from home, and you just don't see that whatsoever. So whether that's Pirou not being able to press, or whether it's the way Farke's setting up the team, I just don't know. It's just not good enough. And next up we've got Stoke away, and I'm expecting to lose. That's where we're at. And the worry now, like we had this in League One with McAllister. Like, we started the season really well. We were playing amazing football. We were incredible at home. But then we started losing every away game. And then that away form starts seeping into the home form. And that is the real concern, because then you just lose everything. So we need to obviously make it go the other way.
Well, Rocco, here comes our first clash of the evening. So, because as much as I've slammed Farke, and I really have slammed Farke about these 1-0s, like whether it's home or away, like Blackburn won at home last season, I think there's a pattern there which disturbs me, and the fact that he brings on subs at 70 minutes to not change it. But watching that performance on Saturday, I can only send a rocket up the players. I think on Saturday, Farke did what Farke does. I think he picked the right team. I think he sent them out there with a clear set of tactics and kind of playing principles that we know they have. And then I watched Bogle not be able to make a 5-yard pass. I watched Tanaka miss a few passes, which he never misses. You see Stroke getting turned. You see Rodon not lunging for a ball he should cut out. You see Biscahan's keeper. You see Aronson firing, out for a throw-in when he should be tapping it into the bottom corner. Those players were a disgrace on Saturday. Absolute disgrace. There was no fight even until the last 20 minutes, actually, when we really put on the pressure. There was one point in the first half where a ball went into the air, and it would have taken, Pirou would have had to come back maybe 10 yards for it, and Aronson would have had to really run forward 10 yards for it and challenge the guy. And what ended up happening is Pirou kind of jogged over behind him and kind of did a token jump, but didn't really challenge for the ball. And I'm going, what is going on here? Like, where's the desire to get up and smash people and win second balls and fly into tackles and take a booking if you need to, Pascal, because that's what you need to do when the guy turns you and he's running at your back line of Rodon and Bogle. So for me, I can blame Farke up to a point, and I do, and I hold him accountable for his errors that, you know, I've outlined on the show before. But Saturday, and it was all about the players. And I think when it becomes a pattern, it's actually more about the players. Because I think the manager will do the manager's thing on a regular basis. He'll set his team up, unless he's doing something really drastic with the tactics, which I'm not seeing. What I'm actually seeing is players at Ellandroad who are thundering into tackles, who are winning second balls, who are spraying passes around their place, who are imaginative in their runs and flicks and tricks and on the ball. And away from home, I'm seeing players who can't pass at 5 yards. And I am talking, like, there was one that was a 5-yard pass. Again, I think just went out a play or went straight to one of their players. And you're just throwing your hands up. So for me, those players need to shape up, because that was shocking, absolutely shocking. And now, and if I think back on it and I looked at it, and I tried to kind of look at it objectively, a lot of those away performances that I slammed Farke for, if I look back at them with a hat on that I want to blame the players, I could easily do it. Because again, it's them not making the runs, it's them not finishing the chances, it's them making mistakes. So at what point do we have to look at those players and say, you need to sort yourself out, lads?
Yeah, so all really good points. And there's moments in the game that could have changed things. Dan James hit the bar later on, which is the thing that he does at Deepdale now, after 2 seasons in a row, I think it is, isn't it? We obviously got a free kick on the edge of their box. They should have had sending off, which was the big controversy of the first half. That happens, the game completely changes. And I think, you know, I get it in feeling like there is a disgraceful performance, but there's also moments that could completely turn that game and us as a fan base feel more positive. So when I talk about Melia as well, I'm not a fan of the descending on one player. The mother hen in me, I think, like, tries to protect the players. But I do think there are some criticisms that are well deserved. But yeah, it could have been so different. That's the frustrating thing. It kicked off, didn't it, with that challenge? The bench was going a bit wild. Farke made comments after the game, which at the time thought was funny, but maybe a bit out of line as well.
Yeah, I was surprised at his comments, actually. Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, terrible decision. Honestly, I'm not so sure that it would have changed anything, to be honest. I think the game would have been exactly as it was, probably even harder, because they'd have wasted even more time, etc., etc. You know, I don't think there's any reason to think that our players would have suddenly become inventive and, you know, created more chances. I don't necessarily see it like that. So, yeah, I don't blame the ref. I think we have to just judge the performance. But what an absolute disgrace. How could he not send him off? Like, you know, the fact that you're giving a free kick for something like that, when the defenders played the ball, if you're giving a free kick, it's for the excessive force. It's a yellow card by definition, or a red. It's astonishing that he could not send him off there. And it's just like, yeah, just anti-Leeds. It has to be, because what else could it possibly be? Madness.
Well, as you mentioned, James, the game did get a bit feisty after that. Like, for 10 minutes, there was people flying into tackles, and the ref just completely lost control. And I actually texted out that my head had gone as well. Like, at that point, I was furious, absolutely furious at that referee. Stevie Wonder could have seen that was a yellow card, at the very least. Like, there was arguments that it could have been a red. But that tackle was a disgraceful tackle. For it not to be a yellow card, for the ref to see it, for the blow for a foul. And then when they all surrounded him, he had a second to think, and he just completely bottled it. And I don't know if it would have changed the game either, but that's not the point. The point is the ref has to do the right call. He has to do his job.
Yeah.
And he absolutely bottled that. It was a disgraceful decision. One of the worst, I'd honestly say one of the worst refereeing decisions I've ever seen. And considering the guy was just booked 5 minutes beforehand, it was just such an obvious red. I actually turned around to my brother and I was like, great, okay, he's going here. And it kind of, you know, you forget about it for a second and you start looking at, you know, getting ready for the free kick. And next minute, he's talking to him, he's not putting his hand in his pocket. And I'm going, nah, this can't be happening. Like, what on earth is going on here? And those type of things go against you. And it does make it harder for you in the course of the season. Because Well, so I think little things like a knee offside or a couple of inches offside or something, that'll even itself up over the course of the season. I'm not sure that decision.
To be fair, I mean, midweek we got away with a penalty. We were saying that they even out over the course of the season. So that's a prime example of it, isn't it?
But I think like that, I think we'll have opportunities where we're breaking down and someone might have a clip of someone's ankle and it could be a penalty as well. I think that actually will even out. But I think a lunge like that, compounded with a lunge by Doyle against Firpo at Blackburn. So in our last 2 away performances, both of those teams should have had a man sent off for reckless challenges. And in both occasions, the referee failed to do their duty. So to me, I was fuming now. If I'd have been on that pitch, I think I would have got sent off because there's just a sense of injustice I felt at that moment in time. I wanted to kick someone.
It's also representative of how the refereeing our away games. Like teams are allowed to like rough us up and do all that and completely get away with it. So yeah, even like regardless of blaming the ref for the result, it shows what we're up against away from home, that referees aren't refereeing like you would expect them to referee. Even the Tanaka one, where he stands on his ankle, like, you know, that was potentially a red card. Like, and I mean, everyone seems to think that it was an accident. I'm not even so sure. I mean, where was the ball? Like, what was he doing? I'm not sure.
I think he'd been in a few players' ears that game. Is it the same one that Dan James kicked the ball in his head on the floor?
Yes.
That was brilliant. I loved that.
I get the impression that he was in a lot of people's ears and causing a lot of problems in that match, and you could see them just getting frustrated. It was a great shot by Dan James. Worthy of a yellow card. Well, he just kicked, for anyone who didn't see it, as the player was on the floor, who'd got a free kick, rolling around as though he'd been hit by a missile. Dan James decided to just welly the ball into his head. Didn't Danny Mills get sent off for that?
Danny Mills tapped it into, was it Ashley Cole's back?
Cole. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
James actually did welly it into him, and it just grazed his head.
Yeah. Decent refereeing then, is that what we're saying?
Going back to that challenge on Tanaka though, that guy 100% meant that. If you've played football, you know how to leave one on someone. He completely stretched in with the intention to stamp on his foot. Like, I'm not sure it meant the ankle, but definitely went to leave one on. I wouldn't agree yet red card, but definitely yellow card.
So we've talked about the Melia goal. We've talked about that red card incident. We've talked about a few little individual errors. We've obviously got our goal as well. But before that, the gung-ho nature, the Norwich bomb, are we going to call it, where you throw all attacking players that we have onto the field in one go. It's like a flying V, like the Mighty Ducks. Sorry, go on.
Before we go there was a big opportunity to equalise, where, in fairness to Peru, brilliant ball into Byram, who, if you watch it again, unbelievable little flick by Byram round the corner. It was almost like a half back heel into Aronson, who's one-on-one with the keeper and absolutely skies it. Well, looked like it was going out for a throw-in at one point. And the funny thing was, I was sitting there watching the match with my brother, and as Aronson gets through, Steve goes, yes, yes, yes. And I literally sat there and went, don't worry about it, nothing's going to happen. And like that, he blocked it up.
When you said, and we were sat there, I thought you were going to say, and a ball came in through the window.
That was shambolic, though. Like, that was, he even said himself, it was so bad.
To be honest, I did what he did, and I stood up, and I was like, and as soon as I saw who it was, I was like, no. God bless him. Yeah, I'm doing my best not to say negative things, but we need a lot more, don't we? I couldn't understand why he didn't let it fall more, why he had to panic. He didn't know who was around him, so he sort of hit it up in the air, like far too high. It's like, just have a look around what's going on beforehand, do the scanning that you talked about, Darragh, and then hit the shot like lower to the ground, and then chances are it's on target. Anyway.
This is the problem. This is our number 10, and this is what he does. Like people talking about the chances we create and that, we were unlucky not to win, we should have won. Well, no, when your number 10 can't finish chances like that, then like, why do you deserve a goal for it? Like, that's the team that we've got. Similar with the Bamford one, which we should come on to. But, we all know that Bamford misses sitters. That's what he is. And he's in the team. He misses a sitter. That's what he does. Like, it's, just bloody ridiculous.
So we got our flying V of all the players all the attacking players on the pitch in one go. And like you say, Dan James was causing them a lot of problems. Like, I think he was our better player on the day, my favourite player of all time, not of all time, but yeah, and he played the ball into the box for Bamford. XG was 0.98. Did you see that? Which is maybe based on his positioning more than anything else, but realistically falling to him on his right foot that was slightly behind him, maybe a bit harsh. But you just want him to get one of them. He needs the PR, doesn't he, more than anything? Because Leeds fans are sort of, if I'm honest, are a bit done with him.
Go on, Rocco.
Well, do you know what?
I thought you were going to just leave me out in the dry there. Cheers, Rocco.
I was waiting for the president of the Bamford Supporters Club to have his say, but firstly...
No, that's Shay Cunningham.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I can't. I'm just done with him. And like El Loco Joe put something on Twitter that I really disagreed with. Like, she was saying that like people hate on Bamford not for what he does, but for who he is. And well, for me personally, it's the complete opposite. Like, I really like the guy. I think he's great. Lovely bloke. Works his absolute bollocks off. Like, look at the physique of the guy. Like, he commits his life to being as good as he can for Leeds. But he's just not good enough. And he's not, in my book, he's not even a proven championship striker. Certainly not anymore. There's arguments to say that he was back in the Bielsa days and obviously had a good season in the Premier League. But yeah, that's the one thing that I really can't understand Farke is throwing him on as an impact sub to try and get us a goal. He's the last person I'd want a chance to falter. Like Darragh said last week, like, start him. I wouldn't mind that much if you start him, to be honest, because he'll do the stuff that Joseph does well. But he's not going to get you a goal. He's the last person I want in that team. And it's not even just the chances that he misses. He's always offside. Things are bouncing off him. I mean, I think he did do a couple of decent touches, but it's just done. Just don't bother anymore.
Yeah, it's a funny one. And I agree with you on the starting thing. I remember last season when I'd finally lost patience with him. And I talked about how the ball was bouncing off him in one particular game. But then 2 games later, he scored a goal and he went on that incredible run where he was the best striker in the league for 10 games. And he was making goals and scoring goals. And I'm kind of just hoping that that's going to happen again. And I'm waiting for it to ignite. I do have a little bit of sympathy for him on the XG. Not missing the chance. He should have scored the chance. But like, the XG is based on a player connecting with the ball a foot out from the goal with no keeper and goal. That's a very different scenario to what he actually faced. But my main issue, or my main point on this one, is that, he came on, he gave away free kicks, he was caught offside a couple of times, and ultimately, when the big chance came to him, he didn't convert it. And alas, my mate Joseph came on and gave away a few free kicks and was caught offside, and ultimately, when the big chance came to him, he completely missed it, and luckily, it hit the defender's trailing leg and went in. So where do we go from here? Because Peru doesn't seem to be doing enough. But at the same time, I do like his quality. If you watch back that Aronson chance, it's a fabulous pass he puts in to Byram, and then unbelievable little flick by Byram. I think all that's actually forgotten, the fact that it was such a bad miss by Aronson. So Peru still has a bit of quality, but the other two are just all over the place. Now, I have to say, give Joseph his credit. That shot he had from outside the box was a good shot. I don't think it was ever going in, but I like to see it, and he struck it well. Maybe next week he puts it an extra yard on it.
And he's a young man as well, isn't he? He's got the game ahead of him.
Yeah, you've got that hope for him.
Yeah, I think that's the worry for me, is that we've got a few players. Well, you've got Peru, who when he comes on as a sub is brilliant and tends to score. Joseph can cause a few problems when he comes on, but it's our starting 9. Like, what is that can kind of control the game that high up the field? And I see that's where I sort of land on what you just said there, Rocco, with Bamford. Like, should you start him? Because he does that. I think giving him a run at, ironically, we're all annoyed at Bamford. Don't think he's good enough to like start him. But there's something in that, he is the one that kind of can wear teams down to then give the time for someone like Peru and Joseph to come on. And if he scores in the meantime and causes them problems or sets up a goal, whatever, then great. But I think that's the issue for me, is we haven't got a number 9 right now, under 10, which goes back to the opening start of the podcast, that really get a hold of those roles in the pitch and play well and link up well together.
Yeah. So this is the thing as well. So like you see on Twitter all the time, especially now that we're coming towards January, like One person will say, if we don't get a keeper in January, it's the playoffs. Then you'll see, if we don't get a striker, it's the playoffs. If we don't get a 10, it's the playoffs. Yeah, Parker's expected to do loads better than he's doing when we're on course for 90 points and we're second. So yeah, but it's a funny one because I'm all over the place. I don't know what the crack is, but we're second overall. We're doing fine. I guess I'm worried that this away form is going to continue to be a problem, and because it's the way we play away from home. It's not that it's not like the Sunderland game. We didn't win it, but we played really well. Norwich away, I thought we were great until he took all the best players off, and we got a draw. We were playing well earlier in the season away from home, and then in the last few weeks or even months, it's been garbage.
Go on, Darragh, go on.
Can I make a prediction? Right, so the last time I made a prediction on this was 2 weeks ago when we lost 1-0 to Blackburn, and I did meet all my stats, and I said, after we lose 1-0, we usually come out and win by 2 clear goals, which we did at Middlesbrough. I'm going to make a prediction. Based on what I saw, the lack of fight, the lack of bite, the lack of winning second balls, the lack of bit of that, for anyone who's watching, like did the elbow thing like David Batty would. When Ampadu comes back into this team, that way form's gonna get better. He's gonna bring that little bit of nastiness in himself that will drive that little bit of nastiness in everyone else just up a notch, and he will turn, a 1-1 draw away to Preston into a 2-1 win away to Preston with that little bit extra nastiness. That's my prediction.
Ampadu's first game back, red card, get it on.
First tackle, bang.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, because that's what I was thinking. I thought you were actually going to say stick him up front. It's like, all right.
How about Firpo when he's fit? He can play up front.
There is always that, but he's never fit, is he? So that's also a problem.
Speaking of players playing where they are, let's have a little chat about how good Dan James is at the moment, right? I think we all love him. Everyone knows that. But the fact is, and we've said this before, when Leeds play badly, it tends to be all 11 players play badly. But he seems to be able to elevate himself above that at the moment. Like he did it when he came on against Southampton in the playoff final, where every other player was terrible, and he came on and just shone like a beacon. He did it again the weekend, where he was incredibly dangerous. At Middlesbrough, he was by far head and shoulders best player on the pitch. 2 assists, or 1 pre-assist, 1 assist and a goal. A cracking goal that it was. He is elevating himself above every Leeds player at the moment, and I think above every other player in the league. The run he's on at right wing, playing every week in a good, strong Leeds team. I think he's just, we all know we think he's a fabulous player. I honestly think he could lay claim to Player of the Year this year across the EFL.
I did think about Dan James before we came on. I thought, should we do an extended part on him, because I feel so positive about him at the minute. And the reason why I feel so positive is because you remember a few episodes ago, we talked about needing someone to just grab the game by the scruff of the neck, and we just didn't have that. And Dan James seems to be seems to be falling to him, or it's falling on him in his own mind that he should be the one stepping up. Like the defensive clearance, which you guys talked about on the podcast at Borough from left back position as well. It's things like that which galvanise the fans, which galvanise the players to push harder, and yeah, I think he's so important for us. And yeah, I had all those same thoughts of, if he continues, he could easily be one of the best in this league this season. And usually it falls to the most skillful. Like Somerville last year was Player of the Year in the end, wasn't he? And probably rightly so. But I would love a player like Dan James to get it, because we mentioned it on Twitter as well, or X, that his story arc is brilliant. He came into Leeds, didn't have a striker that was fit. He was put on as a striker, became under so much pressure from the Leeds fans. It was both Bielsa and Marsh that played him in that position as well. So it wasn't just one particular manager. He got so much stick that meant the fans just didn't want him in the team. But he wasn't playing right wing. Then he went out on loan to Fulham, didn't really get a look in there, and he's come back, got his head down, got on with it. You can't ask for more. Was it at Hearts in pre-season as well, where he talked about, he made a good warming speech as well, about what it meant to play for Leeds and how important it was for him to be back playing. And I think that's the tipping point for me, where I thought Dan James is is different. You can tell that he really wants to be here, and I'm not saying that as a sort of blinkered Leeds fan. You can just tell. There was talk of him a while ago. His dad sadly passed away when he moved to Manchester, and there was talk of, one of the reasons he came to Leeds initially, whether the transfer fell through, was because his dad really wanted him to play for Leeds. And I think members of his family have grown up as Leeds fans. So, yeah, it's a huge deal to him. I'm glad he's sort of getting rid of the scum heritage that he unfortunately brought with him to Leeds. That's well and truly gone in my eyes.
So it was Bamford's fault when he got off to a bad start at Leeds.
Exactly. Correct, Rocco. Correct. So, this point last season, how many points were we on, if you remember from my screenshot that I put in the...
1 point
41.
less, 41. We were on 41 points.
Correct. And Ipswich were 10 points clear of us. There is currently what we got, 5-point gap with Sheffield United. So it could be worse. It could be worse. And I think that's the thing to remember is there might be blips here and there, which we talked about the other week. There'll be blips along the way. It does happen, but we're right up there. We've got a really good squad, and let's get some of these errors out the way now, so we can have a good run like we did last season. And
well, the bookies cheered me up because I looked at the odds to win the league, and they don't seem to care about our away form or our biscuit-handed goalkeeper.
They care about all your money, though, people. So don't gamble.
No, don't gamble. You can't beat the bookies. They're never wrong, and they think we're going to win the league. We're 4-6, and Sheffield United are 5-2, which is they're pretty confident that Leeds are going to win the league, offering 5-2 on
Sheffield United.
I have. I've emptied my gambling account on it. So yeah, ching ching. Yeah, that was good there, wasn't it? I mean, it's surprising.
They must know Ampadu's coming back. That's what it is. They know Ampadu's going to come back and sort out this away form single-handedly.
Class is permanent, Rocco.
We're signing Buendia.
Player ratings, do we need to go through them?
Yeah, rattle them off. I think it's quite kind this week. Melier 5, Bogle 6, Byram 6, Rodon 6, Strout 6, Tanaka 6, Rothwell 6, Willie 6, Aronson 5, James 7, Peru 5. I think you could make a claim for a lot of them being lower, but I think it's probably all right. We did get a point in the end. Hey, by the way, Farke, his substitutions worked, and he made earlier subs. I think it was about 62, 63. He did his first double change, and I thought Solomon did very well when he came on. I think he can play number 10, surely. Like, he's a good enough footballer. He doesn't even look like a winger to me.
He did really well for our goal, actually. If he beat 3 players, one of them actually came back and had a nibble at him a second time. So he basically wrote 4 challenges to play it across to Dan James. Then Dan James goes down the right-hand side, and it looks like he's going to take another touch, going to go further down the right-hand side. That's when he fires it across early and catches everyone out. But yeah, Solomon, I thought, that to me was one of the best cameos, or the best cameo he's had since he came on. He did actually look dangerous. And to be honest, I don't care who they play number 10 as long as they don't play Brendan Aronson. I'm not saying he doesn't have a role for the season, but for the love of God, please take him out of the lineup for a little.
Good at turning, good at running with the ball, but then doesn't really know what to do with it from there and create anything. So, yeah, we need to solve that problem quite quickly. I'm interested to see what Farke says in the next press conference because, like you say, Rocco, I think they know there's something psychologically in it away from home, I think, that needs to be resolved. Because we're not even pressing as hard as we do at home, when other teams are in possession. So there's just something missing where we're just not. I think Farke said we didn't start off quick enough, but is that what he means? We're not making the press happen when we need to. So, yeah, interested to see what he says in the run-up to the last game before Christmas at Oxford.
Like you say, I hope they ask that question. Is he doing anything different away from home? I don't think they've asked him that yet. We can all talk about the players, their performance, but yeah, they need to ask him that question instead of just always asking about bloody injury news.
Yeah, hopefully they do, because I think it is important. But yeah, last game, as I say, before Christmas, Oxford at home, 3:00 kickoff. Yeah, how are we feeling about that? Can we turn it around? Do you think this is one that we should win?
Yeah, this is the thing. If we win on Saturday, for me, it's not really going to change anything. It's going to be all eyes on Stoke. It's not like we're going to get carried away again just from beating Oxford. So they just have to do the professional job. And 2-0, hopefully.
Yeah, I don't want to get too arrogant about it and be accused of being an arrogant Leeds fan, but when Oxford comes to town, to Ellandroad, Fortress Ellandroad as it is at the moment, let's be honest, it is, then you expect to just sweep them aside. I don't think it's going to be that easy, to be quite honest. I think the fact that we think we're going to win, they will all think that we're going to win. Maybe they come out all guns blazing and actually have a go at us and cause us some problems. Maybe we sweep them aside and win 7-0. I don't know.
It's where complacency can seep in against these sort of teams. We had it last year with Blackburn, and just that's always my worry. Leeds United's the worry, isn't it? Let's be honest. So yeah, it should be a team that we beat, but you never know.
They're managerless as well.
There's been a lot of sackings in the last few days, hasn't there? Have you noticed?
Yeah, keep up.
It's got to that point in the season where there's managers going left, right, and centre. Russell Martin, God rest his soul, sacked at Southampton.
Dead. Just got sacked. He's a millionaire. You know what, though? It's a good time of the season for sacking managers. We should have done the same to Jesse Marsh and might still be in the Premier League.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Very true. At the same time, what's his name was hired for Aston Villa, Unai Emery.
Yeah.
Who always reminds me of the ghost on the train in Ghost, the film.
Good one. Yeah.
Is that the angry one who slaps the paper out of the guy's hand?
Correct. That's him. Yeah. And he teaches him
I've seen that film, one of the few ones.
Teaches him to flick cans. You watched it for the clay moulding scene, didn't you? And them getting like quite romantic.
Hang on a minute, Rocco. You haven't seen like Lord of the Rings, but you've seen Ghost.
And Barbie, yeah.
That's right. Actually, for any of the listeners out there, we have to ratchet out here, Rocco. So Rocco texts into our group, I finally seen a Will Ferrell movie. We're like, which one is it? I expected Anchorman or Talladega Nights or something. And he goes, Barbie.
He was great in it. I was really impressed. Star of the show.
Oh dear. Right, well, we're going to go off, watch some Will Ferrell films, and we'll be back after the Oxford United game where, fingers crossed, it's a big home win. That's what we want. Get us back to winning ways. But yeah, until then, we'll see you next time. Cheers. Thank you.